Alright, so Slayer. Very first impressions. She has her own category and her own throne. Oh, this is so good. She's like a barbarian clan leader. Super cool idea. Slay Arena. Power Pass. I believe this is a different trailer than the male warriors have. Imagine having him as your dad. How are we looking? How does default armor look on her? I think she's pretty nice. I think the armor fits her. What about this one that we get as we boost up? In terms of gameplay, pretty similar to the Berserker. Of course, I haven't yet discovered the full potential of the class. But if you've been playing Berserker before, most likely you won't have any troubles getting acquainted with the Slayer. There are a couple of skills like this one, which is one of those fiery ones that you've seen in the trailers. As for the Awakening skill, this is one of them. Pretty nice, pretty unique also. And the second one would be this one. Oh my lord, this one's so badass. We're gonna use it again. The identity skill works in a very similar way to the Berserker as well. You activate it and it's a gauge that depletes itself over time, slower or faster based on which class engraving you're currently using. We're going to get to that in a moment. And you also have the skill with an additional press of the button that activates the identity skill that looks very similar to the Berserker as well. As I'm activating my identity skill, I get a buff which increases my movement speed and attack speed by 20% each, and also my crit chance by 30%, which is a super cool buff to have, right? Now, based on my class engraving, and we need to talk about these two as well. One of them, this one, which is called translated as the Executioner, it gives me a buff that increases the damage that I do, this buff right here, the damage that I do by 25% while I am in this runaway state with my innate ability active, right? But at the same time, it also increases the amount of gauge that is depleted from every tick by 50%, so it gets consumed faster, thus I am fewer time in my innate form, and also reduces the amount of gauge acquisition from using regular skills by 25%. So it's harder to fill it up, a little bit harder than compared to not having this class engraving, and it also consumes faster. However, when it does consume, there is no cooldown to gaining gauge again from using regular skills, right? The other class engraving is translated as Predator, and it's sort of the opposite of the Executioner, where if I press my innate, I am still getting the same basic buff, which is 20% more movement speed, 20% more attack speed, and 30% crit chance, but the class engraving buff is different. I'm getting a 40% increase in crit damage as opposed to a 25% increase in damage. There is still a gauge which every tick takes a smaller amount from the total gauge compared to the Executioner engraving, but at the same time, every 3 seconds, I'm getting a debuff on the right hand side, which is a 10% increase in the amount of gauge consumed per natural tick. However, if I'm using the Predator engraving with the help of skills, I can actually get gauge back. As you can see, I'm getting a little bit every time I use my skills. So the more uptime you have with this build, the better it is. To be noted that specialization, for example, this one increases the amount of gauge I gain by using normal skills by, for example, at 1850 by 105%. Also, it increases the skill damage by 26.46%, which is the second line there, during runaway state. Overall, first impressions, I think it feels really nice to play. The dash itself is just a simple dash forward, pretty nice, and the rest of the skills feel cool, fast. It's not clunky at all. I've tried various skills in between recording this video, and they all seem to feel pretty decent. Even the ones that you actually have to charge, they just feel nice and powerful, and they charge at a decent speed. Currently I'm playing with these stats, a little bit of swiftness, I'm maxed out on spec, and I also have a little bit of crit. So I'm gonna give the Slayer a thumbs up, and I'm gonna leave you guys with some actual gameplay so you can get a better feel of how the class sounds and looks in actual combat. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you really soon. Take care.